Okay, welcome to uh, the lecture of one of the very important package of Python, namely Pandas. So Pandas is basically short for Python data analysis, and again, the name shows that this is basically used for the analysis of data. So Pandas is basically a module in Python language that contains many classes and functions. Some of the examples are the DataFrame class and the series class. And when talking about the function, then it also contains functions like read underscore CSV. So in short, Pandas is a package and it contains a number of classes and some functions as well. The term pandas revolves around the 1D data, and we will be calling it the series, and the 2D data structures, and we will be calling the 2D data structures as the data frame. We can also integrate Panda with other Python packages such as the NumPy, Matplotlib, and the scikit-learn. So now there are certain applications of pandas such as reading and writing the data, cleaning and preparing the data, merging and joining multiple data sets, reshaping the data, and conducting statistical analysis, and finally visualizing the data. But visualization can be much more effective if we combine pandas with the matplotlib library. So now the question is, why to learn pandas? So the very simple answer is that it offers a simple and intuitive way to work with the structured data. Again, when talking about the structured data, we have 1D data and 2D data, and it makes the data exploration very easy. And the most important factor is that it basically saves our precious time because we don't need to write complex code to manipulate the operations relating to the 2D data and the 1D data. So it gives us the build, so we can basically take the help of the uh, classes that are already built in the Panda package, and they already have functions associated with the different operation that which we can actually perform on the structured data. Moreover, it is also widely used in industries like finance, healthcare, marketing, and research. So now the second question arises that what is Pandas data frame? So basically, it is a two-dimensional table-like structure. We also know that a table contains rows and columns. So same is the situation here, that it is basically two-dimensional data, and this data is basically arranged in rows and columns, and basically there are three attributes of that table. The very first attribute is the data itself, and then obviously we have rows and columns. So this is the manipulation of the table that we will be playing around using the pandas package. So we will be having the data. So each cell contains a particular value. That value can be any kind of data, that is sometimes in this case this can be a string value, this can be floating point value, again string value, and again floating point values, and not allocated value, which is the no value is provided here. Similarly, we have some column headings here, that is the name is not actually data, but this is the column heading. Team is also the column heading. Number, position, and age are also column headings. However, on other side, we have the rows heading as well. So 0 is not basically data, but this is the number of 4 rows starting from 0 up to the n-1 row. In this case, this is the 6. So we have rows indexes starting from 0 up to 6 in this particular table. So now in order to use the pandas package, we first need to import that package in our code. So essentially by writing the keyword import and then the pandas name is sufficient, but if you don't want to use the complete net pandas throughout the code, then we can simply we'll be referring it as the PD. We will also be importing the numpy package, and we will be using the shortcut name for it as np. So now, in order to create a data frame, we basically, first of all, we'll be using the class name data frame, but we can see that there are small brackets next to this particular class name. We can also see that the package name is here, but since this is the syntax, so we are using the complete name pandas here. But in our subsequent sections, we will be using a shortcut that is the PD instead of the pandas. And then this dot operator is referring to the term that this data frame function is actually inside the pandas module. And again, this data frame is basically a function name, but we also know that data frame itself is a class name. So again, referring to the classes of the pandas, we know that a function having the same name as the class name is called a constructor. So this is basically a constructor of the data frame class. So this constructor has particularly three parameters. The first one is the data. The second one is the index containing information about the rows headings, and the third one is the column containing information about the columns heading. We will be discussing each of these parameters in a slightly detail. The very first one is the data. So basically it is a data set from which a data frame is to be created. It can be a list, a dictionary, scalar value, or series or array, etc. We will be discussing each of these in detail. The second parameter is index. So the second and third parameters, which is the index and rows, they are basically optional. If we don't provide these parameters to the data frame constructor, even then data frame will be created. However, if we don't provide a particular information, then the default values of indexes 0 up to n-1 will be assigned to the rows, and similarly to the columns as well. So there are a number of ways to create a data frame. The very first one is to create an empty data frame. We will be looking at this example shortly. And then to create a data frame from a Python list, and then combination of different lists or arrays of lists, or simply we can call it as arrays, creating data from dictionary, from a numpy array, from list of dictionaries, from already existing data frame. And then there is a series, and in the last we will be looking at the example of zip function. So the very first example is that to create an empty data frame. So first of all, we are using a short name PD for the pandas, and then this particular dot is the part of the syntax, because this data frame constructor actually it is the part of the data frame class, and the data frame class resides inside the pandas package. So here you can see that we have not provided any kind of argument to the parameters. The very first parameter is the data itself, but we have not provided is as argument for the data. So in fact, no argument is provided here. So if it will definitely create a data frame, and this data frame will be stored in the df variable, which will then become the object of the data frame class. So if we want to take a look of the data that resides inside this data frame, then we will simply run this particular cell that contains this short code. So okay, first we need to call the packages or import the packages. So the packages have now been imported successfully. So now if we execute this code, it will work. So now you can see that this data frame is basically empty. There are no columns and no indexes. By indexes, it means number of rows. So now the second example is to create a data frame from a simple Python list. So in order to do that, we will be creating a list with the name first, and we know that a list uh, is a structure that contains some elements. So in this case, all the elements are the strings values separated by commas. So again, the same syntax that we have used the package name, the short version, and then the dot operator is the part of the syntax. The data frame is the name of the constructor of the data frame class, and then we have provided the list name as an argument to this data frame constructor. As a result, an object of the data frame class will be created containing these elements as the data in the table, and then we are storing this newly created object of the data frame class into the df variable, and then we want to take a look using the print function that what actually is the shape of this table. So here we can see that this table basically contains only a single column, and the index number of this column is 0. Similarly, there are a number of rows here. So it means that if we want to create a data frame from a list, from a single list, then each element of this list will be stored in a new row starting from 0 up to the n-1 row numbers. And if you want to print this data frame without the use of the print function, then its shape or graphically it will look like this, that each row is uh, differentiated with the help of the white color and the gray color, and there's a small thin line separating the column headings from the data. Now you can also create a data frame from lists. By list we means that it contains more than one list or multiple lists, or we can simply call it as the arrays. So now we can see that there is a list that contains only two items, that is the string data and the integer data, and then separated by a comma, and then there is another list containing two elements separated by a comma, then there is a third list, and then we contain these three lists as an element in another list. So this is basically the form of the array of the 2D array containing two rows and two columns. So now we are providing this 2D array or list of lists to the data frame constructor, and we also have added a second argument here, which is basically the columns. So instead of letting the columns to use the indexes number starting from 0 up to n-1, we have provided the column labels by ourselves in the shape of another list. So we can see that angular brackets are used here. So this is the opening angular bracket and this is the closing angular bracket. Within these angular brackets, the strings have been used as an element of this list separated by a comma. So we can see that there are two items in that element, items or elements. Both of them are string values. So the name will become the column heading of the first column, and the second element will become the column heading of the second column respectively. In this way, we have created a new data frame, an object of the new data frame class, and we have stored this object in the data frame. And finally, we want to look the visual representation of this data frame using the print function. So as a result, you can see that since we have provided the columns names explicitly, so we can see the columns name that which we have provided earlier using the column argument. The first one is the name, second one is the age. And since we have not provided any kind of information regarding the indexes of the rows heading, so the default values have been used here. So now the fourth way to create a data frame is with the help of the Python dictionary. As we all know that a dictionary is a data structure in which there is a key, and each key can have a single or multiple values. In this case, we have used multiple values against each key. So data, the term or the variable data in this case refers to the dictionary. As we can see that curly braces have been used here, so this also depicts that this is a dictionary, not a list. Again, name has been used here, and we all know that each a dictionary contain in dictionary each item is basically a pair of the key and a value. So this full colon basically separating the value, sorry, the key name from the value. And here the value is in the form of the list, which means that it contains more than a single value. In this case, there are four values, and each of this value is a string value. Similarly, there is we have used a second element of this dictionary. Again, dictionary comes in a pair of the um, key and a value. In this case, the key is the string age. Full colon is part of the syntax, and instead of providing a single value, we have provided a list of values. And now again, we have provided this dictionary as input in the form of argument to the data frame constructor. As a result, this constructor will return an object, and we are storing that object in the data frame variable. Uh, in short, it is the df, and then finally we are printing that data frame. So now we can see that this data frame is basically the combination of the built-in, you can say that column names. So each key in the dictionary becomes the column name. In this case, the very first key is the column name or the very first column. Similarly, the second key becomes the column name of the second column respectively. Again, we have not provided any information regarding the uh, row headings. So the default values for the row headings or indexes have been used, which is the 0 up to 3. Now the third option is to create a data frame from the NumPy array. We will be using only a single example here because in future we will be discussing a complete new series of lecture regarding the relationship of NumPy array with the data frame, and what other operations we can perform, such as reading data from the NumPy and storing into the data frame and slicing the data, so on and so forth. But now here we are only using a simple example to create a data frame from NumPy. Since we have already once called the or imported the pandas library, so we don't have to import it again. So I'm removing this very first statement here. Now Uh, a numpy library is a numpy library or package name is used here. Dot operator is part of the syntax, which means that within this library we are using an array function here. Most probably, I assume that this is the function name because the very first letter is a small letter, and by convention we write all the classes with starting with the uh, capital letter and all the function names starting with the small letters here. So this function basically accepts the data. In this case, this is the 2D array or a single list containing multiple lists as an elements. So first we have created an object of the numpy array, and then we have provided this object as a very first argument to the DataFrame class, or to be more specific, DataFrame constructor. And then as a second argument, we have specifically selected the columns, and then within the columns we have provided a list of string values. Again, these string of values will become the heading of each column in the corresponding data frame. Finally, this statement will create an object of the data frame class, and we are storing that object in the data frame variable. And finally, with the help of the print function, we are printing this data frame in the output. As now we can see that A, B, and C are the column names respectively, and since we have not provided any information regarding the row headings, so the default indexes or row indexes have been used by the Python interpreter as the row headings. However, each sublist is used as the individual row in that data frame. As we can see that the first sublist is 1 2 3 here. The 1 2 3 is the first row in the in the subsequent data frame. The second list is the second row, and the third sublist is the third row in the corresponding data frame. Now the sixth way to create a data frame is from a list of dictionaries. Again, the word depicts that list, and there will be a single list, and this list will contain each element as individual dictionaries. Here we can see that angular bracket specifies that this is a list, and this list contains two elements. The first element itself is a dictionary, an individual dictionary, and the second element is also an individual dictionary. But the first dictionary contains only two elements coming in a pair of key and value, and the second element is also a key, namely C, and integer value 3. But the second subsequent dictionary is it contains three elements coming in a pair of key and corresponding value. So we are storing this particular list in the variable data, and then providing this data to the data frame as the first argument. And now instead of using the columns argument, we are using the the index argument, and this index argument specifies that we are actually assigning the headings to the each row separately. So the first so the heading of the first row will be first in string first, and the heading of the second row will be the second. So now this particular statement will return a data frame class object, and we are again storing that object in the data frame variable, and then we are printing that data frame variable using the print function. As a result, we can see that each individual uh, list, each individual uh, uh, dictionary is now again manipulating as individual row in the subsequent data frame. Since the first dictionary contains only two elements, so that is why we can see all two elements. And since it does not have any third element, so that is why the corresponding key A, which is not present in the first subsequent subdictionary, it does not contain any value here for the first dictionary. And since we have set the indexes manually for each row, that is why we can see that the first label has been used as the label for the first row, and the second label has been used as the label for the second row. Okay, now moving towards the seventh way to create a data frame from already existing data frame. So in this case, you can see that without incorporating any existing data, we are creating the data and providing this data to the data frame constructor as the first argument at the runtime. So now you can see that a particular dictionary has been created within the uh, argument of the data frame constructor. Here we can see a name key contains multiple values. Similarly, the age key contains multiple values as well. So now this dictionary has been provided as input to the data frame class constructor. As a result, it will generate an object of the data frame class, and this object has been saved using a variable name original underscore data frame. So now a new data frame has been created, but here we have used a name of the original data frame, but instead of creating a complete copy of the data frame, we have only specified that we want to create a new data frame that will contain only a single column instead of two columns. So it will copy all the elements of the first column, or a particular column that is the name column exactly. So the resultant new data frame will contain only a single column, and the column heading will be the name. All the values against this column will be copied in the new data frame, and we will not see the second column as we have not copied it at all. So when we will try to print the new data frame, it will contain only the new label, the name label column, and we will not be seeing here any age column here. And now there is yet another way to create a data frame from series. So now again, series, different class of the pandas package. We will be seeing it again in the upcoming lectures. For now, we will be taking a simple example that we are creating an object. This object is particularly a dictionary, but this dictionary we have defined the key with the string 1, but instead of providing it in the corresponding values from a simple list, we are basically converting that data type of that list to the panda series. Similarly, we are also providing information, the index to those data. So each row will have a particular name as A, B, C, and D. So the row name will correspond to the value for the very first value in the list of the values. Second row will have a label of small b. The third row will have a label of small c, and the fourth row will have a label of small a. Same is the case for the second key, that is 2, and this particular string will become the column name, and the index value, the list corresponding to the index, will become the labels of each row. So now this particular dictionary has been provided as an argument, as an input argument to the data frame class, and as a result, if we try to look at the output, it will give us the exact output that each row has also now a label, that is A, B, C, D, which are used here, and the key names have been used as the column headings of each column. So now there is the ninth and the last way to create a new data frame using a zip function. So in order to use a zip function, first we have to create two lists. The first list is created with the name variable, and the second list contains is has been created with the name age. So obviously the name list contains the names. All the elements of the name list are strings, and all the elements of the age list are basically the age, that is the integer values. So in order to join these two lists as the key and values, so what we have to do is that or in order to create not as key values but to join these two lists with the zip function, so there is a function named list, and instead of creating that list from scratch, we have used a zip function, and the first argument is the name list and the second argument is the age list. So this particular function will return a tuple, and we are storing that tuple in the variable list of tuples. So first we will print that list of tuple, that how it look likes, and then this print function will print and then break a single line, and then this list of tuple has been provided is a data to the data frame, and correspondingly what we are doing here is that we are creating the column labels that were as well, because they are basically two lists. So the first list will become a first column, the second list will become a second column. So now we are giving the first column label as the name and the second column label as the age, and this particular statement will return an object of the data frame class, and we are storing that object in the data frame variable. And finally we want to print this data frame. As a result, we will see that first that tuple list of tuple has been printed because of this particular print function. And now when this list of tuple has been provided as input to the data frame constructor, subsequently we have also used the we have also input the list of column names. So now we can see the first column name is the name, and against the name column we can see all the items or elements of the name list, and likewise we can see that the age column contain all the element of the age list. Since we have not provided any information regarding the rows heading or indexes, so the default indexes have been used here. Now again there is this additional information has been provided, that first we have created a dictionary. In this dictionary we have used a single key with corresponding list of values. The first key is the name, the second key is the marks. So again the name key will correspond to the name of the people, the second key will contain the marks each person has achieved in a particular subject. So now this variable has been provided as the first argument, which will be considered as the data, and then we have used the index parameter and provided the argument as the list of strings to the index argument, which will become the label of each row in the corresponding data frame. Now, in order to see the data frame, so we can see that these list of strings have become the label of each row in the ascending order. Similarly, the keys in the dictionary became the column heading of each column, and we can also see the corresponding values to each key as the individual column respectively. So this is now for the very first lecture regarding the pandas. I hope you enjoyed the lecture. If you have any questions, please provide your questions in the comments to the videos, and I will reply these comments accordingly. Thank you very much for watching. See you next time.